This season, Saquon Barkley was arguably the best player in the NFL and had one of the best seasons a running back has ever had. I mean, props to him. He's had a career year. But you look at his career history year by year, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of inconsistency. It's unfair to say inconsistency. But what's going on here? Well, we are going to be answering that question. Dude has had a crazy career so far, from college being labeled as a generational talent to the pros, where he's been listed as a young up-and-coming superstar, to being washed, to reviving his career again, to being washed again, and to now being an MVP candidate. This is the crazy career of Saquon Barkley. Let's begin this video at Saquon Barkley's time at Penn State. When Saquon Barkley came to Penn State was in a very weird condition where their legendary head coach Joe Paterno had just retired, and right after retiring, he was met with a ton of allegations along with another head coach, he wasn't a head coach, but another coach, and they were true, and this tarnished the Penn State brand, and they were also in a rebuilding era where, I mean, you can see it, just mediocre season after mediocre season, just a very weird time for Penn State football. I'm not going to go into the off-the-field stuff here. If you want to, go check it out. If you don't know, or you just want a refresher, go look into it after this video or whatever. Just stuff that I cannot go into on YouTube. But 2016 was looking like another mediocre season for Penn State, as they'd started out 4-2, including a really bad loss against Michigan, but everything would change in their annual whiteout game against Ohio State. This photo you're looking at right here was a blocked field goal Penn State had against Ohio State, and Penn State would pick this ball up and return it for a touchdown to take the lead 24-21 late in the fourth quarter, and the score would stay that way, and Penn State would upset number 2 Ohio State 24-21, and this wouldn't just turn the momentum for the season, but also the momentum for the entire Penn State football program. After that loss against Michigan, Penn State would go on to win 8 in a row, finishing 10-2 and earning a berth in the Big Ten championship game, where they would beat Wisconsin 38-31, ending their season winning 9 straight games and finishing 11-2. One of the main reasons Penn State did so well in 2016 was because of sophomore running back Saquon Barkley, as he had almost 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns. I mean, those are insane stats from a guy who still has at least one more year of college left, and like I said, he was one of the biggest reasons why Penn State went 11-2, and one of the biggest reasons why Penn State completely turned around as a program. And many people thought Penn State deserved to make the playoff just because they were the 4th best conference champion. However, they decided to put in one loss Ohio State just because they had one loss and Penn State had 2. But it didn't really make sense because Ohio State wasn't their conference champ, and their one loss came to Penn State, and a lot of people were upset about that. Penn State would get a pretty cool consolation prize as they'd play USC in the Rose Bowl. However, they would lose 52-49 on a game-winning field goal in one of the best Rose Bowls of all time. There were a lot of expectations for Penn State going into the 2017 season. Like I said, they finished 11-2 and had that crazy 9-game winning streak, and they were bringing back quarterback Trace McSorley, the GOAT, and that very talented running back in Saquon Barkley. And in 2017, Penn State would take a little bit of a step back, but Saquon Barkley was still performing at an elite level, rushing for over 1,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, and finished 4th in Heisman voting, and Penn State would finish 11-2 on the season after beating Washington in the Fiesta Bowl. After that season, though, Saquon Barkley would declare for the 2018 NFL Draft, and he was one of the best running back prospects the NFL has seen in a long time. This was proven to be true, as with the 2nd overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the struggling New York Giants took Saquon Barkley, and no one batted an eye at this pick. Everyone thought this was a phenomenal pick. Saquon Barkley would now be playing with Eli Manning in his final few days and entering the next phase of the Giants era. He'd also be playing with Odell Beckham, which is crazy to think about, that a rookie Saquon Barkley was on the same team as a still pretty good Odell Beckham. That's wild to think about. Entering the NFL, Saquon Barkley was met with a crazy ton of expectations, but he just proved them in this first game, as against the Jaguars, he rushed for 18 attempts, 106 yards, and 1 touchdown. And this wasn't no Jags team. This was a Jags team coming off one of the best defenses we've seen in modern NFL history. So just from this game, we knew Saquon Barkley was going to be a baller. Despite this performance, the Giants would still lose 20-15, and this would pretty much be the story of Saquon Barkley's career as a New York Giant. That first game, though, was the start of something great for Saquon Barkley in 2018, as he'd rushed for 261 attempts, 1,307 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he'd make the Pro Bowl team, and not only that, he would also win Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2019 was a bit of a step back. He'd only played 13 games, but he still rushed for over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, no Pro Bowl this time. But the sky was still the limit for Saquon Barkley. The potential, the crazy potential, and the superstar status was still there. And this is also the beginning of a new era for the Giants. This was the year the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, and people really didn't know when he was going to start, when he was going to take over for Eli Manning. But it was pretty much right away. Just after a few games, he took over, became the starter, and Eli Manning retired after that season. So it officially began the Daniel Jones era for the Giants. But the Giants, they still sucked. At this time, however, the overall view of Saquon Barkley was that he was one of the league's fastest and rising upcoming stars, potentially the next great running back. And I mean, again, sky was the limit for this dude. Everyone loved him. Everyone thought he was going to be special in this league. But all that changed. All that reputation changed after week 2 of 2020. In week 2 of 2020, Saquon Barkley would tear his ACL, and it would end his 2020 season, and that season was already off to a very shaky start after a very bad first game against the Steelers, and it looked like it could only go up from here, but honestly, his play looked like it was really slowing down after he recovered. Even through 2 games played in 2020, his stats weren't really that good, and then when he played in 2021, he played majority of the games, but again, his stats just weren't good. Only a little under 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. It looked like his ACL tear had made him washed. I mean, that was the consistency. I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but that was the reputation of Saquon Barkley at the time. But once turned from a bright, promising young star to a guy who was potentially washed by the end of his 4th season. I mean, absolutely tragic. It's also important to note here that the Giants at this time were still terrible. They showed no progress at all. They were still one of the worst teams in the NFL. Not only that, but Daniel Jones was also not looking good, and they brought in a new coach in Brian Daboll. So you consider all this in, Saquon Barkley potentially being washed, Daniel Jones not looking good. This was a make-or-break season for the New York Giants in 2022, and they showed up big time. In 2022, Saquon Barkley completely revived his career, rushing for over 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, and making it back to the Pro Bowl game. And not only that, but he led the Giants to their best season since 2016. They made the playoffs, and Daniel Jones looked like an actual good quarterback for once. I mean, I actually thought he was turning it around. The Giants would beat the Vikings in the wildcard round, however, they would get absolutely destroyed against the Eagles in the divisional round, ending what was looking like a magical season. At this time, it looked like Saquon Barkley had revived his career. It looked like he was at the top of the running back game again, but I mean, with how just short-lived running backs' careers are in today's NFL, you just never know how it's going to go. 2023 wasn't terrible for Saquon Barkley. It was definitely better than years like 2020 and 2021, but it looked like after this season, he had definitely exited his prime. It looked like he was on the path to becoming a washed NFL running back, as he only rushed for 962 yards and 6 touchdowns. But that offseason was going to be really big for him. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Giants absolutely crashed back down to earth in 2023. They were not the same team at all. They weren't even like close to being good. And this would really impact Saquon Barkley in that offseason because he was a free agent and he could go wherever he wanted to. What Saquon Barkley would do that offseason is absolutely shock the NFL and sports world by signing a 3-year deal with the division rival and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this was a crazy move because if he were to move, he'd probably go to somewhere like the Texans or something like that, but instead, he stays in the NFC East and goes with the Eagles. I mean, just that in itself is a crazy move, and this was also really risky by the Eagles' part because if this doesn't work out, well, y'all look like idiots because a lot of people are counting out Saquon Barkley right now, saying that he's washed and all that. So this was a big gamble. How would he do as a Philadelphia Eagle? Well, you've seen how this season has gone. He has been absolutely phenomenal. In 2024, Saquon Barkley has exceeded anyone's expectations that anyone had placed on him before the season began. He has rushed for over 2,000 yards, and that in itself is a crazy impressive. 13 touchdowns. He's made it to the Pro Bowl team easily, and he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, and some people are saying he should win MVP, which if he did, I would not be mad at all. It's insane. He's had one of the best seasons a running back has ever had, and if they played him in Week 18, he probably would have broken the single season rushing record. It's been an absolutely insane year. Dude has just proven everyone wrong. I can't even put it into words. Not only that, but it also helps that he's finally, for himself at least, he's finally on a Super Bowl contender. You just look at his stats, it's absolutely insane. Dude has had so many labels over his career, from a future superstar to washed many times over, and to now in the MVP conversation. This dude has had one crazy wild career, and that's about it, guys. Bye.